Hello everyone and welcome back. It's now been 2 weeks since the launch of Path of Exile Ultimatum. My Freezing Pulse character is coming along nicely after a shaky start. It's actually been a bit of a rollercoaster ride. Let's see how it went. Since the last update video, if I haven't been eating, sleeping, or working, I've been playing Path of Exile on this character.
Your pain will be endless.
As you can see, the character is clearing for fun. Single target damage is also respectable, and the most important factor is that bosses don't really hit you. They just sort of stand there looking frozen. You got more than one boss on your tail? That really isn't an issue either. With the damage we're currently doing, we can absolutely freeze everything in sight. Now this means that a map mod that's never really bothered me before now bothers me, and that is Unstoppable, which is monsters' action speed cannot be modified to below base value. Because this means when they're frozen, they still move, and that's rather nasty. Now interestingly, map mods I normally have a problem with, such as players cannot regenerate life, mana or energy shield, really don't cause this build many issues, although they can be slightly problematic if you have a boss without adds. And that of course is because you have to keep the mana and life flask charges up. Shield or Shocking Ground isn't a problem either because we have over 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments. We're also immune to elemental reflect and don't deal any physical that could be reflected. But that's right now. At the beginning of the week was a slightly different story. At the beginning of the week, I wasn't quite sure whether to continue with the character or not or start a new one. And that's because it died quite a bit. And by quite a bit, I mean a lot. And then when I thought it was over, some more. In fact, I ran out of portals before I killed some bosses. These were all tier 16s, but I'm not used to that much death. In fact, since creation, this character has died over 200 times, which is more than any character I can remember. And this was down to a couple of things. 1, running out of mana, and 2, just not having enough damage to freeze all bosses. But all things, including failing, have to come to an end at some point. Because we picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves down, and came back with an absolute vengeance. Now of course, this doesn't happen by itself, so what changed? I picked up a load of alterations, and used a global crap ton of them, and we're talking thousands. However, at the end of it, we had some pretty decent cluster jewels. And this is because whilst cluster jewels at the beginning of the league were fairly cheap, they became really expensive for the ones we want for this build. Now some of the endgame ones we want are over 4x a piece and we don't have that kind of money, this being a league starter and all. However, after some pretty intense crafting, we now have some fairly decent cluster jewels. I've replaced the cluster jewel on the other side of the tree with one that I crafted. This has Doriani's Lesson, Cold-Blooded Killer and Prismatic Heart. It's far from perfect, but a lot better than what we had before. There are a lot of extra gems, each one having 7% increased maximum life to boost our life. Except of course for these 2 first snows, which grant us 2 extra projectiles each, and increased projectile damage. My next points will go on this life node here, and this life node here, and then this. The character's now reached level 93 and is doing extremely well at leveling now that we've prevented it from dying quite so often. Our life regeneration per second is now 568.8 from the golems. We also have a 175% chance to avoid all ailments, meaning we're completely immune. The build now sports 4,568 health. This is augmented by a 2,850 hit point Primal Aegis, which absorbs elemental damage, and a level 19 Steel Skin, which absorbs 70% of incoming damage, up to a total of 1,946. I believe we're now at the point where we no longer get one-shot by elemental damage, however physical damage will still one-shot us if it hits us hard enough. And our biggest problem, like most of my builds, is physical projectiles. I'm just about to be rather rude and interrupt, but if you would like to help me out somewhat, and help the virtues of this channel spread to more and more people, you can do so in multiple ways for free. Just one of those ways is to hit the like button, or you could also subscribe and hit the bell so you know exactly when I post a video. If you have a good idea of what you want to see next, or any comments on how I can improve, then you can leave a comment below the video. And with that, I'll just say thank you, and we'll go back to the video. We picked up this helmet for 80 to 118 extra cold damage, at the expense of an extra 10% cold resistance to deal with on the enemies. We offset this with our new cluster jewel, giving us Blanketed Snow, which gives us that 10% resistance right back. We also have Cold to the Core, which gives us a percentage increased cold damage based on our dexterity, intelligence, and strength. We picked up Cold Conduction. This is one of the biggest increases in damage I've seen so far. It basically allows our cold to shock. We then got Eye of the Storm for extra critical strike chance, Basics of Pain for an extra critical strike chance, increased damage, and another quick getaway. We also picked up the Anima Stone. This was for 2.2x, which was rather expensive, but it did give us our extra golem. We now support 5 delightful golems, which are Stone, Chaos, fire, ice and lightning. I've been playing around with Divergent Freezing Pulse and Chain Support. Don't bother, it's not very good. Well, it's faster at clearing, but not by much, and you have to swap in and out to kill bosses, which isn't pleasant. We dropped one of these in this lovely delve area, and this allowed us to get rid of our Orb of Storm's curse setup. It gives us a curse of Frostbite with 20% increased effect. The critical strike chance on Freezing Pulse without flasks is now 40.68, which is absolutely ridiculous, and deals approximately 3 times damage. This is incredibly important, as each time we hit with a critical strike, we will freeze the enemy for a duration based upon their health. I also switched out the anointment on my amulet to Righteous Army. This isn't our final anointment, as we still want Constitution, which gives us 20 to maximum life and 14% increase to maximum life. We've dropped our Sulphur Flasks for a Wise Oak, and for the first time ever, and you'll never see this again, all my uncapped resistances are balanced, meaning we get full defensive and defensive capabilities from this flask.
Getting rid of the Orb of Storm's curse setup has allowed us to put in a cast when damage taken, linked to Steel Skin, linked to increased duration, and to Blood Rage. I lowered the level of Blood Rage by 1 to allow this to happen, but it really needed to happen because I kept forgetting to manually cast it. We also replaced Alira's reward with Eramir's 2 points on the passive tree, and that's because of our favour towards Cluster Jewels and our massively overcapped resistances. According to Path of Building, our damage is 4.2 million, and this reduces to 2.4 million when fighting Cyrus because of his resistances. Now, whilst this damage sounds perfectly respectable, it's frankly just a drop in the ocean for what this build is fully capable of, if you want to invest heavily in it. And I may very well do that before the end of the league, because I'm actually really enjoying the playstyle of this character. It's very fast and it clears exceptionally well. In hindsight, this build probably wasn't suitable for a league starter. It's far too expensive, coming in somewhere between 6 and 7 Exalt right now, and as I said, it could scale much higher than that. That said, the build is amazing fun and I do highly recommend it. If you want to check it out, there will be a link to the Path of Building in the description below. And it can do the league mechanic now, just watch this. And if you are still watching this, thank you so much for joining me today. If you do know anyone who likes Path of Exile content, then please share this with them. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Enjoy the fruits of your love and your skill.